Rolling. In the dark room, the tooth-sickening sound of metal rubbing can be heard. Two strong white men in guard uniforms pushed open the iron door, dragged a hospital bed, and slowly walked into the room. On the hospital bed, a teenager with an Asian face was lying on his back. I saw that his hands and feet were tightly bound by leather buckles, and he could hardly move his whole body. He could only barely turn his head to look at the surrounding environment. The room was dark and narrow, with an operating table in the middle. Judging from the dirty curtain and the rusty operating lamp above the head, it is obvious that this place is not up to the standard that an operating room should have. If you smell it carefully, you can even smell a faint smell of blood and musty smell. And beside the operating table, stood a white coat with a cut. The other party was fiddling with the medical equipment and instruments beside the operating table, as if preparing for something. It's Kingdog. Seeing this person's appearance, Lu Chuang's mood suddenly fell to the bottom. Facing the guards who were much stronger than himself, Lu Chuang had no strength to resist at all, and was lifted and thrown onto the operating table, lying flat on the table like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. "Welcome back, little mouse." At this time, the white coat turned around and stared at Lu Chuang with indifferent eyes. "It's still the same question. Why did you appear in our research institute? Our guards, including the monitors, didn't find you. How did you do it?" For these two questions, Lu Chuang didn't know how to answer them at all. After all, how can such things as time travel be easily revealed to others, especially the white coat in front of him who claims to be Ajax? Lu Chuang knew very well in his heart that the name Ajax was fundamentally fake, a fabricated false identity. If I remember correctly, this guy should be called Francis. The supervillain in the movie, Deadpool, yes. The place where Lu Chuang is now is the research institute where the protagonist in the movie treats cancer. As a time traveler, Lu Chuang has been in this world for more than 2 months. Compared with those strange ways of traveling, Lu Chuang's traveling process can be said to be very simple. Just for a moment of trance, Lu Chuang, who was playing games at home, appeared in this mysterious research institute inexplicably. Lu Chuang, who hadn't figured out the situation at the time, was soon spotted by patrolling guards and knocked unconscious. When Lu Chuang woke up, he found himself lying on the operating table, being injected with some kind of medicine by a foreigner in a white coat, and there was no room for resistance during the whole process. What greeted Lu Chuang afterwards was a series of brutal interrogation and torture. Beating with iron rods, drowning and suffocation, enduring high temperature, soaking in ice water. Lu Chuang can't remember how many times he has survived that perverted abuse. Every once in a while, Lu Chuang will be sent into this operating room by the guards, and he will be greeted by Francis, a perverted sadist. Francis tortures him in different ways each time, and the intensity will gradually increase. Until Lu Chuang's body couldn't bear the load, or he completely lost consciousness. These tortures that made him feel like dying would stop temporarily, and then continue to torture in another way next time. Over and over again. During these days, Lu Chuang has been tortured in every possible way, which can only be described by the word that life is worse than death. Lu Chuang, who knows the plot, knows very well that even if he confesses everything, it will be useless, because this research institute is originally shady that kind. And he is not the only unlucky guy being tortured here. All the patients in this institute are actually experimental subjects who have lost their freedom. The painful experience these days made Lu Chuang understand one thing thoroughly. In this institute, the only ending waiting for him is death. The only way to survive is to escape here. After waiting for a while, he found that Lu Chuang still had no intention of answering. Francis's eyes showed a trace of coldness. "It seems that you still don't intend to tell the truth. It's okay, we have plenty of time." As he spoke, Francis pushed the instrument next to him in front of Lu Chuang. His fingers were stained with some unknown liquid, and he began to spread it evenly on Lu Chuang's temples. As if wanting to crush Lu Chuang's mentality, Francis said slowly while fiddling with Lu Chuang, "In the next few days, your body will be continuously connected to AC. But you can rest assured that this voltage will cause you to die directly, at most. It will only make you feel very painful and uncomfortable. Looking at the metal needles on Francis's hands, Lu Chuang's heart skipped a beat. Is this guy going to electrocute him? Wait. Forced by this oppressive atmosphere, Lu Chuang finally spoke. Seeing this, Francis immediately thought that his pressure method had worked. He looked down at Lu Chuang, and said with a sneer, I'll give you one last chance, tell me, who are you? About my identity. Lu Chuang's mind was running wildly. He definitely couldn't tell the truth, but he couldn't say that he was a Saiyan. Who knows if there is a Dragon Ball comic in this world? Lu Chuang had no choice but to bite the bullet and said, yes, it's quite complicated. Francis frowned. It sounded like the identity of the other party was not simple. He couldn't help urging. Say it. There is no way. Lu Chuang simply smashed the jar and said, how should I say? I can only say that I understand everything I understand, and you don't understand if I don't understand. There is no benefit. Just pretend that you don't know. For the rest, I can only say that the water is very deep, and there are many things involved. Let's take a closer look and don't ask why. Francis savored carefully and carefully analyzed Lu Chuang's words. Obviously, he didn't get any useful information in the end. So your identity is? I understand everything I know, and it's useless to say what I don't understand, so do you understand? The smile on Francis's face froze instantly. What did he understand? Isn't this just a bunch of nonsense? Saying is tantamount to not saying. At this point, Francis couldn't see that the other party had no intention of confessing. His face darkened. Very well, I hope you can leave here with this humor. Francis stopped talking nonsense. Take the metal needle directly to Lu Chuang's temple. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chuang opened his eyes again. The operating room that caused him pain was gone, replaced by a spacious hall. Through the dim light, you can see a large number of hospital beds in the hall. Lying on it were people in white hospital gowns. They had different expressions, but most of them were numb. There were endless wailing and screams, and an atmosphere called despair filled the entire hall. Well, with the recovery of consciousness, Lu Chuang's body suddenly felt a sharp pain. He snorted, thin cold sweat kept oozing from his forehead, his pale face twisted in pain. Maid, Francis is really ruthless in forcing you. At the moment, Lu Chuang felt as if countless ants were gnawing on his body. This is because his body was connected to the high-frequency biological electric current. Under the stimulation of the electric current, his muscles and nerves suffered serious organic damage, resulting in intense pain comparable to being burned by a fire. If Lu Chuang hadn't gotten used to the pain from the experience during this time, he probably couldn't help crying out at the moment. With this time, it should be enough. Suppressing this maddening pain, Lu Chuang thought to himself. Following his thoughts, a simple character panel suddenly appeared in his mind. Player. Lu Chuang, open black lens bracket sex. Male close black lens bracket open black lens bracket age. 18 years old close black lens bracket. Talent. None. The character panel that comes to mind at the moment is a mobile game that Lu Chuang played before time travel. Danganronpa. A super high school level talent development program. This is the latest mobile game officially launched by the famous game, Danganronpa. Different from the reasoning adventure type of the original work, this mobile game focuses on the relaxed style of cultivating collection. Players can unlock various super high school level talents by completing achievement tasks, allowing players to personally cultivate a person who is similar to the outflow of the god seat, an extraordinary being with all the talents. After time travel, this game followed Lu Chuang to this world. It is also the only hope for Lu Chuang to escape from this ghost place now. For 2 months, Lu Chuang thought about running away all the time. Lu Chuang, who has seen the movie, naturally knows the true face of this institute. With the temptation of curing the disease, they specially attracted a group of patients as experimental subjects for the research institute. The unknown medicine that was injected into Lu Chuang's body at the beginning was a special serum that needed the adrenal hormone secreted by the human body as a catalyst to stimulate mutations in the potential mutant genes in the DNA. This mutated gene is very special. It can endow the human body with various inconceivable abilities, enabling the wearer to have power beyond human beings. And this kind of genetic mutant is also called mutant. As for the experimental subjects whose genes were successfully mutated, the fate waiting for them is not to be free as they wished, but to be forced to wear collars that can suppress self-awareness one by one, and eventually become obedient mutant slaves, and are packaged by the Research Institute for auction sale. To put it simply, this research institute is a super slave processing factory, and all experimental bodies are their commodities. These days Lu Chuang frantically searched for a way to escape from this research base. Finally, one day, he accidentally activated the game interface in his mind, as well as the achievement system that comes with the game. Title: Super High School Level Lucky, unopened. Title: Super High School Level Fighter, unopened. Title: Super High School Level Sharpshooter, unopened. Most of the densely packed text are titles that Lu Chuang is familiar with. These are all super high school level talents from Danganronpa. But, at the moment these titles are in the gray state of not being opened. According to the mobile game settings, players need to meet the triggering conditions of the achievement task to be eligible to unlock the corresponding title. You know, in Danganronpa's worldview, the super high school level represents the top talent in a certain field. This means that people with the title of super high school level, whether it is ability or strength, completely crush everyone in this field. It can be called the strongest existence in the field. Lu Chuang cast his gaze to the last column of the panel, only to see the bright red color displayed at the bottom. Open black lens bracket dislike from Death God. Completed close black lens bracket, unlock condition. Complete 15 near-death challenges, 15/15. Title awarded, Super High School Level Stuntman. Do you want to unlock the title? Close black lens bracket, finished. Lu Chuang's eyes burst into light, and the corners of his mouth uncontrollably rose crazily. The scene in front of him is the motivation for Lu Chuang to persevere until now. If it weren't for the emergence of the achievement system, which gave Lu Chuang the hope of living to a certain extent, I am afraid that before Lu Chuang's body collapsed, he would have a mental breakdown because he could not bear the pain of the torture. In this closed environment like a prison, there are not a few experimental subjects who have collapsed and become lunatics. Fortunately, the unlocking conditions for this title are surprisingly consistent with Lu Chuang's current experience. After each torture, the progress bar of the achievement task will increase a little. Until today, the progress bar has finally reached its full value. Receive. Without the slightest hesitation, Lu Chuang directly chose yes. Open black lens bracket unlocked successfully. Close black lens bracket. Title: Super High School Level Stuntman. Description: a stuntman who can complete all thrilling shots, a person who is hated by Death God. Characteristic: immortality. Lu Chuang felt that his heartbeat seemed to stop for a moment. Prior to this, Lu Chuang was completely ignorant of this super high school level talent, and he did not have a matching role in his memory. According to the literal meaning, Lu Chuang guessed that it should be related to stunt actors. As for the specific effect of this title, Lu Chuang has no idea at all. After all, in the world of Danganronpa, super high school level talent originally is a very unscientific existence. You know, even something as mysterious as luck is a kind of talent. The most representative character among them is Nagito Komeda, who has the title of Lucky at the super high school level. Komeda Nagito's luck can affect everything around him. As long as it is what he wants, fate will take the initiative to send this thing to him. Just like the protagonist Long Aocean in the novel. This is not the degree of being favored by the goddess of luck, it is clearly the goddess of luck secretly supporting him boy face. However, even the luck of the super high school level is not enough to shock Lu Chuang so much. What really shocked him was the characteristic introduction of this title. Don't die. There is no redundant description, and the short 2 words directly summarize all the effects. As Mr. Lu Xuan said, the fewer words, the greater the matter. Now Lu Chuang's feeling is that he drew a lottery randomly, and suddenly a golden legend popped out of it. Although he didn't understand why the stuntman's talent is immortality, could it be that he became a dangerous stuntman because of his immortality? Lu Chuang couldn't understand it. Well, suddenly, Lu Chuang felt a warm current coming from his body, which quickly spread along the blood. His body is undergoing drastic changes. The first thing that ushered in the change was the eyes. The myopia that had troubled Lu Chuang for many years gradually became clear. The second is Lu Chuang's dilapidated body. These days of high-intensity torture have left no one with many hidden diseases in his body. Lu Chuang needs to endure the pain caused by these dark diseases all the time. However, at the moment, the hot current penetrated deep into Lu Chuang's body, as if he was under the sun in the early winter morning, and the cells all over his body were cheering. It is repairing at an extremely fast speed, returning to its original healthy state. Since crossing, Lu Chuang has never felt that his body is so relaxed as it is now, as if he has been reborn. Lu Chuang's eyes widened immediately, and he roared as if venting. Awesome! Lu Chuang's voice echoed in the hall. Sensing the movement here, the guards in charge of guarding the hall looked over one after another. Very good. Another crazy one. The guards were no stranger to Lu Chuang's yelling. In this dark laboratory, the most indispensable thing is the experimental subjects who are driven crazy. They thought that Lu Chuang probably was the same. They just glanced at it a few times, then turned their eyes away and ignored him. F*K, you interrupted my date with Scarlet. At this time, a hoarse voice came from the next bed. After venting, Lu Chuang calmed down a little, and turned his head to look in the direction of the voice. The person who spoke was a young white man with beards. His face was frighteningly pale, with two cheekbones protruding high on his thin cheeks. He looked like a terminally ill patient. The white youth glared at Lu Chuang viciously. Damn it, we just missed the last step after the foreplay. But Scarlet was scared away by your yelling, and my date was completely ruined. Seeing the serious expression of the other party, Lu Chuang was a little speechless. Another member of Taobao.com who wants to drink bathwater. Wait. I remember you said that you have a girlfriend outside, right? Instead of having these useless daydreams all day long, you should find a way to get out quickly, or you will wait for a few years to pass, and suddenly a half-older children call you daddy. F*K it. Hearing this, Wade immediately broke his guard, and said angrily, after I get rid of those damn cancer cells, I will go out and get Vanessa back, and then I will show you the most beautiful woman in the world. The premise is to be able to go out. As Lu Chuang said, he suddenly remembered an important matter, which was about Wade. The man in front of him named Wade, his full name is Wade Wilson. That's right, it's Deadpool, the famous mercenary in the future, who is known as Marvel's first mouthpiece. As cancer cells were detected in the body, Wade, who had nowhere to go, took the initiative to participate in this genetic modification experiment as a volunteer, and arranged with Lu Chuang who had just crossed over. After getting along for a period of time, the two naturally chatted together. Definitely, this is also the result of Lu Chuang's initiative to get acquainted. Regardless of Wade's unreliable character, as a top mercenary, Wade's ability is absolutely beyond doubt. If Wade hadn't voluntarily stayed in the research institute to undergo the so-called genetic modification, the security force of this research institute might not be able to entrap this powerful mercenary. And so it is. According to the development of the movie plot, after Wade got the self-healing factor, he came up with the idea of escaping. Under his operation, there will be an explosion in the research institute, which will cause a fire, and the fire will spread to the entire research institute. At that time, this place will become the most dangerous area, and all people staying in the research institute will face death threats. Before that, Lu Chuang was still thinking about holding on for a while, and when Wade started to act, he could find a way to escape while he was in chaos. But plans can't keep up with changes. Lu Chuang did not expect that the undead characteristic of super high school stuntman is so powerful. In the blink of an eye, all the injuries on his body recovered. So much so that now as long as anyone comes to check Lu Chuang's body, he will immediately reveal his secrets, and once his ability is revealed, Francis will definitely pay great attention to it, and then he will really be unable to escape. So, Lu Chuang must escape from the institute before his ability is exposed. Time is running out for Lu Chuang now. Lu Chuang quickly went through the movie plot in his mind. Suddenly, he had a bold idea. Looking at Wade who was still shouting, Lu Chuang narrowed his eyes slightly. Wade, do you know the secret of Ajax? What secret? Wade suddenly became interested. Because of his cute mouth, Wade often receives special care from Francis, and Wade is also very concerned about Francis's recent situation, and often visits Francis's family members. Hearing that it was about Francis's secret, Wade was immediately refreshed. Lu Chuang smiled slightly. Actually, the name Ajax is fake. His real name is Francis. Ajax was originally a brand of dish soap, but that guy took it for him. No, are you serious? Definitely is true. This secret is only known to me at the moment. Ha 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 ha. I knew Ajax was a fake name, but I didn't expect it to be a brand of dish soap. There is such a stupid person who would use a dish soap brand as his name. Francis, the idiot, got his brain caught by the door. Wade laughed like crazy, his body contorted on the hospital bed. At this time, Lu Chuang's expression revealed a hint of worry. By the way, it's good that only the two of us know about it, and you remember not to tell anyone else, especially Ajax. Oh no, Francis. Be sure to remember, especially don't laugh at his name as a dish soap brand. Francis has a thin skin, he will bite when pushed. Lu Chuang still seemed worried, emphasizing several times all over. Don't worry, don't forget what I do. Secrecy is the basic professional quality of a mercenary. I have received strict training. Wade laughed and promised, almost patting his chest to show his reliability. Seeing his appearance, Lu Chuang nodded in satisfaction. Well, I believe you. On the second day, Francis appeared in the lobby as usual. As the person in charge of the research institute, Francis needs to regularly check the progress of the experimental subjects. After all, these experimental subjects are their important cargo. If something goes wrong, their losses will be great. After inspecting several experimental subjects, Francis picked up the test reports of the experimental subjects and continued to walk deep into the hall. Soon, Francis came to Lu Chuang and Wade's hospital bed. Just at the moment, Wade in front of him looked up and saw his appearance. Puff. Francis was taken aback for a moment. What was the reaction? But before he could speak, Wade writhed inexplicably on the bed. Immediately afterwards, unscrupulous laughter sounded in the hall. I'm sorry, I can't help it. There are such idiots in this world who use the brand of dish soap as their name. Damn it, I laughed so hard, ha 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 ha. Francis. Wade is gone. Even tens of meters away, Lu Chuang could still hear Wade's exaggerated laughter, almost dying of laughter. Followed Wade away. There is also Francis who looks like he ate shit. After all, what Wade said just now did not deliberately lower the volume. Whether it is a guard or a test subject, anyone in the hall can probably hear Wade's loud voice. At the moment of social death, Francis's mood can be imagined at this moment. Looking at the back of Francis going away, Lu Chuang secretly heaved a sigh of relief, and was almost discovered. Fortunately, Wade jumped out in time to attract fire, allowing Francis to keep his eyes on him. Thinking of this, Lu Chuang silently prayed for Wade in his heart. Hope people are okay. The time at the institute seems particularly long. Lu Chuang was lying on the hospital bed, keeping the most awake state at all times, for fear of missing the most critical moment. In this closed and dark environment, there is no concept of time at all. So Lu Chuang didn't know exactly how long it had been. After Wade left, he has been waiting for the only chance. Boom. No symptoms. Suddenly there was a shock in the hall, and the deafening explosion sounded in everyone's ears. Before everyone could react, what happened? Then, a scorching high temperature swept across the hall in an instant, accompanied by a terrifying shockwave sweeping across the entire hall. Lu Chuang only felt a flash of fire in front of his eyes, and a huge amounts of force directly overturned him, and fell heavily on the ground together with the hospital bed underneath. Under the pressure of this force, the hospital bed broke into several pieces with a bang, and Lu Chuang flung himself to the corner of the hall under the influence of inertia, only barely stopping when the wall blocked him. Lu Chuang's body was covered with burns. Most of the hospital clothes had already been destroyed by the flames. The exposed skin was full of burn marks, and an unknown number of bones were broken. If it were a normal person, This kind of injury would be enough to kill him on the spot. At least he would have been seriously injured and died frequently. But Lu Chuang not only did not die, but stood up tremblingly. The charred skin on his body was rapidly recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the blood overflowing from the wound also stopped flowing. In a few breaths, all the horrific injuries disappeared without leaving any scars. Successful. Lu Chuang was ecstatic, and he didn't care about the hall that turned into a fire scene in front of him. His escape plan is very simple, which is to advance the plot that should have happened some time earlier. Give Wade an early self-healing factor to blow up the lab and create a chance to escape. Obviously, his plan has succeeded. The explosion came suddenly and lasted only a short time. The hall after the explosion was in a mess, with various debris scattered on the ground. At this moment, the hall was full of screams and cries for help. Everywhere you could see horrific charred corpses, or experimental subjects who survived but were tied up and could not escape. Due to the large amount of flammable materials in the research institute, the fire quickly spread to the entire hall. The originally dark room was burned brightly by the orange flame, and it was unknown what compound was burned. The peculiar smell wafted around, causing Lu Chuang to cough a few times. Lu Chuang quickly covered his mouth and nose, and immediately ran out of the hall regardless of the obstruction of the fire. As time passed, Lu Chuang could clearly feel that the temperature around him was rising rapidly, and the scorching air made it more difficult for him to breathe. Because he was barefoot, every step of Lu Chuang now felt like walking on hot coals. If it weren't for the immortality of a super high school stuntman, which can ensure that Lu Chuang is in the most perfect state at all times, he might not last 2 minutes in this fire zone. At this time, a figure appeared in Lu Chuang's sight. Judging by his attire, this person was clearly a guard of the research institute. He was clutching his injured right arm and struggling to move forward against the wall. It seemed that he was also affected by the explosion. The guard noticed Lu Chuang at the same time. He was obviously taken aback, and then looked at the broken hospital gown on Lu Chuang's body. "Wait, you are... Shut up, you!" Lu Chuang raised his fist without any hesitation, and hit the guard's head with all his strength. Before the injured guard could react, his face was severely injured, and he fell to the ground with his head up. Lu Chuang also let out a muffled grunt, and the dislocated phalanges began to repair automatically due to the reaction force. Bang bang bang. While the guard fell to the ground and was unable to resist, Lu Chuang raised his foot and kicked him on the head violently. At first the guard wanted to struggle, but Lu Chuang didn't give him a chance at all. One kick after another hard. Facing Lu Chuang's brutal attack, the guard's struggle gradually became weaker until he lost all his struggle. Apart from a few unconscious twitches of his hands and feet, there was no other movement. Tick, tick, blood fell to the ground along Lu Chuang's folded feet. Glancing at the bloody guard, Lu Chuang felt a little uncomfortable, but it was limited to physical discomfort. For these people in the institute, Lu Chuang will never have the so-called pity or sympathy. Maybe some people inside have their own difficulties, but what does it have to do with him? Lu Chuang only knows that the 2 months of painful experience are inseparable from these bastards. When he was being abused, he didn't look at "no one will come to pity yourself." Call. Lu Chuang let out a breath slowly, finally venting some of the resentment that had been pent up in his heart these days. He squatted down, reached out and groped for the guard, and quickly found a rifle from the guard's waist. This is the first time Lu Chuang has touched a real gun. It is very heavy in his hand. Lu Chuang thought for a while, and then began to take off the guard's clothes and shoes and put them on himself. Crackle. At this moment, the sound of something breaking came from the ear. At this moment, the fire was completely out of control, and some small pieces of gravel kept falling from the top of the head. Lu Chuang knew that he couldn't stay here any longer, otherwise, even if he couldn't die, he would be buried alive by the collapsed building, and it would be difficult to climb out. However, the entire space was filled with billowing thick smoke, which made it difficult for him to see everything in front of him and tell the direction. Do not care. Lu Chuang simply gave up thinking, picked up his rifle and ran wildly in one direction. At the same time, located in the area where the explosion occurred. Francis. who learned of the explosion in the institute, immediately rushed to the scene of the explosion, followed by more than a dozen guards, all of whom were holding fire extinguishers, trying to extinguish the surrounding fire. Looking at the messy scene, Francis walked in with a gloomy face. But after walking a few steps, Francis glimpsed an opening in the oxygen chamber in the corner, and Wade, who was supposed to be lying in it, had disappeared, and his heart suddenly became alert. Boom! Suddenly, a figure rushed out from the thick smoke and rushed towards the guards standing at the edge of the line. With glass slag in his hand, he slashed across the guard's throat. The strong smell of blood suddenly spread in the air. The guard covered his neck in astonishment, and wanted to ask others for help, but he could only moan lowly. This figure is the disappearing Wade. At the moment Wade was naked, and his face and body could be seen covered with rotten scars, and none of the skin was intact. It looked like it was fished out of sulfuric acid. It was amazing to see. Creepy. Francis. Wade stared fixedly at Francis, his hoarse voice slowly squeezed out between his teeth, filled with endless anger. As Lu Chuang expected, after Francis took Wade, he began to abuse Wade more cruelly than ever. Perhaps in retaliation for Wade's unstoppable stinking mouth, Francis locked Wade in a device that could control oxygen, leaving him in a state of hypoxia for a long time, and tortured Wade repeatedly, and Wade will be tortured forever. The meaning of. As a result, Francis's crazy behavior accelerated the stimulation of the serum in Wade's body, giving him super self-healing ability and completely getting rid of the threat of cancer. But the cost was to leave Wade with a disfigured face and horrific scars all over his body. Seeing his own face, even Wade's character couldn't accept it. While Francis was leaving, Wade detonated the instrument with a stolen match, and created a horrible explosion with the inflammables on the side, and finally survived by virtue of the self-healing factor in his body. But instead of leaving, he chose to stay here and wait for Francis to arrive. It turned out to be you idiot. Seeing Wade's appearance, Francis finally understood how the inexplicable explosion came about. Without hesitation, he immediately issued an order to the guards: shoot, kill him. Wade, however, was faster than him. Almost at the same time that Francis opened his mouth, Wade had already taken off the rifle from the bodyguard's corpse, opened the safety device, raised the muzzle of the gun, put his shoulder against the butt, and pulled the trigger. The movements were smooth and seamless, as if this set of movements had already been integrated into his muscle memory. Inside. Boom! 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 There was a loud gunshot, and the bullets hit the heads of the 3 guards, and they exploded in midair like watermelons. The other guards were taken aback by Wade's aim. After Wade shot again and killed 2 guards, they finally set up their rifles and shot at Wade without even aiming. Bang 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 bang. The muzzle flame spurted out, and the bullets poured out of the gun chamber in an instant. The howling rain of bullets hit, and Wade tumbling dexterously hid behind the barrier, and continued to shoot at the guards in all directions with his gun. The smoky environment did not affect Wade in the slightest. As an experienced top mercenary, such an environment is more conducive to his combat. The fierce gun battle begins. As for Francis, he didn't participate in the shootout, but hid in the wreckage of a large instrument in the corner. For the current situation, Francis didn't interfere too much, as if he was waiting for something. Tread. At this moment, there was a faint sound of footsteps amidst the roaring gunshots. Immediately afterwards, Francis saw a guard turning over the wreckage of the instrument with hands and feet, sitting next to him with a rifle in his hand, and then slapped his chest as if he was frightened. As if sensing Francis's gaze, the guard turned his head and looked over. The eyes of the two collided. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Lu Chuang felt that he was unlucky enough. He couldn't find the exit of the research institute, but accidentally broke into this place. Once inside, he sees Wade slaughtering a group of guards. Lu Chuang was worried that he would be involved in this fierce gun battle, and wanted to find a place to hide, but he never expected that he would run into Francis, the Sima-face, by coincidence. This luck is no one else. Francis looked at the dusty Lu Chuang, thinking it was one of the surviving guards. He frowned slightly. "What are you doing?" Seeing that Francis didn't recognize him, Lu Chuang disguised himself as a guard and said under his breath, It's too dangerous here, I want to stay here to protect you. I don't need protection. Francis was expressionless. Lu Chuang nodded vigorously. Okay, then you will protect me. Francis. The subordinates have heard a lot about protecting the leader, but this is the first time that the subordinates have asked the leader to protect themselves. Is this plausible? Francis immediately sensed something was wrong. Who are you? I understand what I know, and it's useless to talk about what I don't know. Lu Chuang grinned. It's you. Seeing this, Lu Chuang raised the rifle in his hand without saying a word, and pulled the trigger. Although Lu Chuang has never touched a gun, he also knows the premise of shooting, so naturally he will not make such a low-level mistake as forgetting to open the safety. As early as the moment he saw Francis, he was already planning to shoot him. At such a short distance, no matter how bad his marksmanship was, Francis couldn't dodge bullets. However, Lu Chuang far underestimated Francis's reflexes. Facing Lu Chuang's sneak attack, Francis, who was originally frightened and angry, suddenly stretched out his right hand and forcibly pressed down the muzzle of the gun that was about to be aimed at him, and all the bullets fired were shot to the ground. So fast. Lu Chuang was about to take back the rifle when he saw a fist magnified infinitely before his eyes. Click. Lu Chuang, who couldn't dodge in time, could only raise his arms to block in haste. The moment the fist touched the arm, Lu Chuang could even hear the brittle sound of his own arm's bones being overwhelmed. This force was beyond his ability to resist. The power that Francis shows now reminds Lu Chuang of some movie clips. That is, as the manager of this mutant slave processing factory, Francis originally is also a mutant with a special ability. His physical quality has already surpassed ordinary people, and all pain nerves have been removed through surgery. In a fight, even Wade is difficult to parry. But even so, Lu Chuang still didn't let go of his grip on the rifle. Francis was a little surprised by this. He snorted coldly, and punched Lu Chuang again. The tearing air sounds of the fist rang in his ears. Lu Chuang did not retreat but advanced. Before the fist hit, he slammed into Francis's arms, trying to knock him to the ground with the weight of his body. However, Francis seemed to see what Lu Chuang was thinking. The waist suddenly exerted force to stabilize the balance of the body, and unexpectedly withstood Lu Chuang's impact. The next moment, Francis raised his foot suddenly and kicked Lu Chuang hard in the abdomen. Boom! Lu Chuang only felt a terrifying force coming, and immediately flew out with a gun. The whole person fell heavily among the guards 5 meters away. This series of events all happened in less than 5 seconds. The guards who were still fighting with Wade didn't know what happened behind them, and saw Lu Chuang suddenly fell in the middle of them. Regardless of the severe pain in his abdomen, Lu Chuang immediately got up from the ground and shouted, "Good guy, this experimental subject actually has accomplices. Brothers, don't talk to him about morals, let's all shoot him and kill him." After all, Lu Chuang raised his rifle first and fired at Francis's position. Facts have proved that the masses like to blindly follow suit. Seeing that Lu Chuang was wearing the same uniform, the guards did not become suspicious, and subconsciously raised their guns to shoot. Nima. Francis quickly squatted down with his head in his arms, and hid behind the bunker again. At the same time, he roared in rage. "Fac. Show me clearly, it's me your F***king hitting." Hearing Francis's voice, the guards were all taken aback. Lu Chuang put on a look of disbelief. It turns out that Francis is an undercover agent, and he has been lurking beside us as the boss. Holy shit, Francis is undercover. The guards finally realized that the guy next to him was the real fake. But it was too late. Lu Chuang had already turned his guns on them. "Excuse me, I'm a policeman." After the words fell, the still warm rifle sputtered flames again, taking the lives of the guards in an instant. "You did a great job, little guy. If I were the judge, I would definitely give you 99 points for your acting skills just now." Wade came out of the corner clapping. Lu Chuang stared at Wade's disfigured face for a while, and asked in confusion, "Who are you?" Wade was taken aback. "I'm your good neighbor, Wade." Lu Chuang shook his head and denied, "Impossible, Wade is not as handsome as you." It's okay if he doesn't say anything, but when he said it, Wade's anger surged up. "It's all the dish soap's fault. Wade was furious, and fired a volley of bullets towards Francis's cover. "Get out! See what you did to my face. You ruined the dreams of thousands of girls." Seeing that all the guards were dead, Francis was calm and walked out from behind the bunker with his hands raised. Francis raised the corner of his mouth and sneered, "You won't kill me, because only I can restore you to your original appearance." Wade said viciously, "You're right, I won't kill you, but I will cut off your ass, and stick it to your mouth with super glue, so that you can taste the taste of your own ass." Lu Chuang looked at Wade in disgust. "Disgusting, or you are disgusting." Step, step, step. Suddenly, a heavy footstep approached slowly. The two turned around sharply, only to see a strong woman rushing towards them. Without any hesitation, Lu Chuang and Wade raised their guns and fired at the same time. I saw that the strong woman didn't even dodge. She let the bullets hit her body and made a jingling sound like steel. She punched Lu Chuang, who was closest to her, and there was a sound of compressed air. "It's mutant again." A thought flashed in Lu Chuang's mind. Suddenly, the strong woman's fist struck through the air. The rifle in Lu Chuang's hand broke directly into two pieces, and his fist hit his chest with undiminished force. The surrounding scenery suddenly changed. It was as if Lu Chuang had been hit head-on by a truck, and his whole body hit the wall heavily. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, which was mixed with internal organs, his chest collapsed severely, and his body fell limply on the ground against the wall. Fack. Seeing Lu Chuang's miserable state, Wade cursed secretly. However, right now he couldn't care less about others. The moment the strong woman knocked Lu Chuang into the air, Wade suddenly jumped from the air to the back of the strong woman, and immediately wrapped his arms around Lu Chuang's neck, trying to put pressure on him to suffocate him. In the face of Wade's naked choke, the strong woman is not affected at all. It was Wade rubbing her back and forth that annoyed her. The muscular woman forcibly broke Wade's arm, and directly broke the so-called unsolvable naked choke. Wade was surprised in his heart, but he didn't forget to say, "For a lady, are you a bit too strong? I feel sorry for your husband. I bet he won't be able to turn over in his life. I hope he bear everything about you, well, I mean all aspects of life." Before the words were finished, the muscular woman bent over and kneeled fiercely, smashing Wade on the back to the ground. It was clearly visible that there was a crackling sound of bones, and Wade was directly smashed into an unknown number of levels of disability. In just a short moment, the strong woman easily dealt with the two of them. The muscular woman was obviously pissed off by Wade's words. She casually picked up a steel bar on the ground and mercilessly inserted it into Wade's back. The steel bar directly penetrated the floor and fixed Wade on the ground, making Wade completely lost the resistance ability. "Gina, calm down, there's no need to argue with a dead man." Francis smiled and patted Gina on the shoulder. "How about what I want you to do?" Gina said coldly, "All the materials in the institute have been destroyed without leaving any traces, and the surviving subjects have also been transferred to other branches." "Very well, we should leave." Ignoring Lu Chuang and Wade, Francis turned and left with Gina. Only corpses and wreckage remained at the scene. Not long after the two left, Wade, who was lying on the ground, suddenly moved. He raised his head with difficulty and looked at Lu Chuang's position. After getting along for this period of time, Lu Chuang can be regarded as a friend he recognized. As a result, the other party died in front of him like this, but he was powerless. This reminded Wade of some very bad memories. "Sorry, I may not let you see the world's most beautiful. Ooh, madfuck." Watching Lu Chuang's tattered corpse stand up again, Wade's originally provocative tone turned into a panicked trill in an instant. "What's the situation? Did I come to the set of Resident Evil?" "Calm down, I can't die, and neither can you." Lu Chuang walked over, dragging the body being repaired, then grabbed the steel bar on Wade's back and pulled it out forcefully. The moment the steel bar was pulled out of the body, Wade looked down at his chest, and the bloody wound began to heal quickly, and he couldn't help shouting, "Oh my god, I'm infected, I'm going to become a zombie. Wait, later can I only eat human flesh? No, my favorite chicken taco. Stop screaming, get out of this damn place, it's about to collapse." Lu Chuang grabbed the yelling Wade and ran outside. At the moment, the fire had reached its peak, and the thick smoke completely covered all vision, and there was almost no way out. You came in from outside, you should know the way. Where to go now? Lu Chuang asks. Wade thought for a while, then pointed in a direction uncertainly. It was a sea of fire, but that didn't stop Lu Chuang and Wade. Without further ado, Lu Chuang grabbed Wade and rushed into the flames. A few minutes later, two figures covered in black dust rushed out of an abandoned factory building outside a remote suburb. Before the institute collapsed, Lu Chuang and Wade finally rushed out of the flames. Finally. Free. Looking at the abandoned factory building ignited by the fire, Lu Chuang felt a burst of complicated emotions in his heart. After 2 full months, he finally walked out of that dark and oppressive space. But what should I do next? Lu Chuang couldn't help but feel a little confused. Since time travel, Lu Chuang has been staying in the research institute. Now, when Lu Chuang walked out of the research institute, he realized with bewilderment that the world he was in was a completely strange world, and there was no trace of him here. To this world, he was the presence of an outsider. Lu Chuang let out a long breath, and turned to look at Wade, who was also in deep thought. Wade. What's next? As I said before, I want to get Vanessa back. So. You're going to go find it naked? Since they had just escaped from the sea of flames, it was inevitable that their bodies would suffer from burns of varying degrees. Lu Chuang, who was wearing a uniform, was okay. There were still some cloth strips left on his body, which at least covered the key parts. But Wade was different, he was open from start to finish. So, when Lu Chuang looked down, he saw a famous dish. Roast chicken. New York Journal, February 13, 2009. The military announced today that Tony Stark, the chairman of Stark Industries in New York, was attacked by terrorists yesterday afternoon after demonstrating the newly developed Jericho missile in Kurenai province, Afghanistan. All 13 American soldiers who accompanied him died. But now Tony Stark's whereabouts are unknown. The military said it would not give up the search and rescue operation. On the streets of Brooklyn, New York, Lu Chuang stood alone at the entrance of the alley. He had already taken off his tattered uniform and changed into a hoodie and slacks. After escaping from the research institute hidden inside the abandoned factory building, Lu Chuang followed Wade here. At the moment he was holding an old newspaper in his hand and reading it. Tony Stark. Future Iron Man, central figure of Avengers. As long as you have watched the Marvel series of movies, you must not be unfamiliar with this name. After all, the beginning of the entire Marvel series started with Iron Man. And the contents of this old newspaper have been more than a month since now. In other words, the current time period is before the birth of Iron Man. At this point in time, Avengers has not yet appeared. Even Captain America will be unearthed at least a few years later, let alone several major events that are closely related to Avengers. So it seems that the Earth is relatively safe now. At this time, Lu Chuang saw a figure wearing a hood walking towards him. Well, have you found your girlfriend? I found it. Under the hood is Wade. At the moment his eyes look a little downcast. But I didn't dare to see her at all. Now I am a complete monster. You didn't see the expressions of those passers-by looking at me. It was even more exaggerated than seeing a zombie. If Vanessa saw me like a ghost, I can guarantee that she will treat me like a zombie and shoot me down. Lu Chuang patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. Don't worry. You are now a regenerative healing factor, one shot won't kill you. Wade's emotions are a bit incoherent. Is there anyone like you who comforts others? Let's not talk about this, let's take you to meet my friend first. Wade walked into the alley, Lu Chuang followed silently behind. Soon, the two stopped in the depths of the alley, and Wade walked to an iron gate and knocked hard. Weasel, your daddy Wade is back for you, open the door. Lu Chuang glanced at the crooked signboard next to the door. Sister Margaret's Lost Children's School. Seeing such a unique name, Lu Chuang knew that this was the mercenary bar that Wade used to frequent. After a while, the iron door of the bar opened. A four-eyed man with disheveled hair stared wide-eyed at Wade in disbelief. Wade, it's really you crawled out of your grave. So that's how it is. Seeing the two sitting in front of the bar, gulping down the lunch he just bought, Weasel said helplessly, So you cured the cancer, and then took your bed friends, ran away from that mutant club and ended up at my place. That's right. Wade spoke vaguely, and casually opened an unopened bottle of wine on the bar. Ignoring the weasel's distressed expression, grabbed the bottle and drank it directly. Lu Chuang does not have a hobby of drinking. In front of the weasel, he opened the freezer and took out a bottle of Happy Fat House water. Tun tun tun. The corner of Weasel's mouth twitched when he saw it. Ma duh. The two of them came here to eat and drink for nothing. As Wade's friend, Weasel is also used to this style. He looked at Wade, who had been wearing a hood, and persuaded him, Wade, Vanessa loves you. During the year you disappeared, she never gave up looking for you. I don't think she will care about your appearance. Oh. Wade Della opened his hood, revealing his terrifying appearance. Do you like the way I look like a ghost now? Dislike. Weasel shook his head without hesitation. Wade turned to look at Lu Chuang. Do you like it? When Lu Chuang heard this, he thought to himself, isn't this talking nonsense? However, no matter what, Wade is also his friend, so he can't hurt his self-esteem by talking too clearly. Lu Chuang thought about it for a while, and said euphemistically, it's not bad, but he looks rather special. I have to say, his words did make Wade feel better. Wade seemed to see a glimmer of hope, and couldn't wait to ask. Tell me, what's so special? Special. Lu Chuang looked left and right, but he couldn't think of anything special about this face. I had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, it's very ugly. Wade. Weasel. Seeing Wade's terrifyingly disfigured face, Weasel gave up the idea of persuasion. No way, this face is too scary. Thinking of this, the weasel suddenly looked at Lu Chuang. Wade. Didn't you say that the abilities of both of you are the same? Why didn't his face change? After the two arrived, Wade told Weasel everything, including his and Lu Chuang's ability. Wade thought that Lu Chuang had a genetic mutation just like himself. In fact, Lu Chuang's ability is not derived from a mutant gene at all, but a super high school level ability. In this regard, Lu Chuang explained while drinking the Happy Fat House water. In fact, the cancer cells in Wade's body have not been completely eliminated, but they are not as fast as the self-healing cells, so he has become what he is now. Touch it. Poor Wade, I can understand you, really, after all, it looks like a hybrid mutant avocado ghost, who would be uncomfortable if you change it, but you can choose other paths, such as a remake of Elm Street. You the way it looks now and the Freddy in it are literally twin brothers. Weasel is worthy of being a friend who can play with Wade. His words not only failed to comfort Wade, but aroused Wade's anger even more. Snapped. Wade slammed the table and stood up immediately. I changed my mind. Before meeting Vanessa, I have to find Francis's damn dish soap, force him to fix my face, and then treat him everything I did. I returned to him without reservation, and finally used a gun to cut a hole in his head, and used his head as a masked RBT*N cup in the future. Weasel. Sorry, I don't want to know at all, and I don't want to imagine that picture. But, that Francis you mentioned, he doesn't know you're alive, does he? Yes, he should think we are all dead. Lu Chuang nodded. At that time, he heard what Francis said before he left. It is estimated that in the eyes of the other party, he and Wade had already died in that fire. As a friendly reminder, if you want to trouble that Francis, remember to disguise yourself, such as wearing a mask or something. Beforehand, Wade, I'm not targeting you, it's just that your current appearance is too it's easy to recognize, and take care of our eyes by the way. Wade was not angry, but nodded in agreement. You are right, and I want to give myself a stage name, a code name similar to Captain America, Captain Wade. What do you think? It's too bad. You might as well call Captain Freddy. The enemy will definitely think you are on the set of Elm Street when they see you. Let's just call it Deadpool. Lu Chuang pointed to the blackboard above the bar. There are many names and bets on the blackboard. This is the characteristic gameplay of this mercenary bar. The gameplay is very simple. It is to bet on which mercenary will die first within a certain period of time, and the person who wins the bet will get double the bonus. On the top of the blackboard, there is a dash of English. Deadpool. Translation. Deadpool, Deadpool. Hearing the name, Wade's eyes lit up. Deadpool, the name sounds good. Okay, Let's call it Deadpool. Lu Chuang asked curiously. It's just, how do you find Francis? Now that guy has run away, and the clues from the research institute have been burned by the fire, so there shouldn't be any trace left. How do you think I participated in that experiment before? Wade obviously already had the means to deal with it. They need a large number of experimental subjects, but they are afraid of attracting the attention of the department, so their recruitment can only be carried out in secret. As long as you follow this clue, sooner or later you will be able to find the exact identity of Francis. Location. Okay, then you work hard, I will help when the time comes. Lu Chuang did not offer to help, and Wade had no intention of asking Lu Chuang to join. Although Lu Chuang has a super self-healing ability, but in terms of overall strength, Lu Chuang has almost no combat ability. After all, this is free America, and hot weapons are the main theme of this place. As a top mercenary, Wade doesn't need the help of Lu Chuang, a gun novice. Therefore, the two of them tacitly did not talk about it. For Lu Chuang, he has one more important thing to solve than revenge on Francis. That is the question of his identity. As a time traveler, Lu Chuang can be said to be an out-and-out black household in this world. Especially in this place of America, police officers often ask to show their identity certificates. Under such circumstances, it may be a luxury for Lu Chuang to live a normal life in the future. Therefore, now Lu Chuang urgently needs a legal identification. As for what to do, Lu Chuang rubbed his chin and turned his gaze to the weasel. I heard that you are recruiting mercenaries here, do you think I am suitable? Sister Margaret's bar. Wade left, he went to prepare for the next action. At the moment, only Lu Chuang and Weasel were left in the bar. Do you want to be a mercenary? Yes, I need money, Lu Chuang nodded. Prior to this, Wade had introduced the identity of Weasel to Lu Chuang. Brokers, plus information dealers. While running this mercenary bar, Weasel will provide mercenaries with some commissions at a reasonable price, and then earn a part of the commission from them. Simply put, it is an NPC who releases tasks. If you have enough money, you will also have to buy some prohibited items from the Weasel. For example, firearms and the like. For another example, forging identities. Just in time, now that Lu Chuang is short of money and needs a legal identity, it is perfect to find Weasel. Weasel looked at Lu Chuang. After thinking for a moment, he said, well, for Wade's sake. With that, Weasel took out a stack of gold and black cards from behind the bar. Although you may have heard of it from Wade, I will follow the process and briefly introduce our rules here. There are mainly two types of entrustment here, gold card and black card. Weasel picked up a gold card and explained. These gold cards are relatively low in difficulty. The advantage is that you don't need to bear too much risk, but relatively, the rewards will be less. What about the black card? Lu Chuang asks along the way. This is a bit more complicated. Weasel replaced it with a black card. Black card entrustment is generally more difficult. The advantage is that the reward is sufficient. The higher the difficulty, the higher the reward. However, I must state in advance that after receiving the entrustment, how to complete the entrustment is you can do whatever you want with your own business. But you have to be clear. When you accept this commission, you will have to bear all the consequences yourself. Even if you are Wade's friend, I won't help you take the blame. I'm just an ordinary broker, understand right? Understood. Lu Chuang nodded. I hope you really understand. Weasel shrugged, said nothing more, and put all the cards in front of Lu Chuang. Lu Chuang flipped through them casually. These cards are all printed with the target person's name, and on the back of the card, there is a note about the task content, which indicates the target person, entrustment and reward. And in the stack of gold cards that Weasel gave, most of the remuneration is less than $50 to $200. As Weasel said, it is basically no risk entrustment, such as teaching a cheating man or threatening a stalker. The commissions are often things that won't kill people. Compared with the mediocre gold card, the entrustment of the black card is much more terrifying. Kill the Russian Ross gang member, Jeff Mond, 1000 USD. Surveillance of members of the Blood Wolf gang, Warner Hewlett, 5000 USD. Kidnapping the rich businessman's daughter, Ashley Suzanne, 100,000 USD. The entrustment of these black cards almost always involves some special characters. And the entrusted task also needs to adopt some necessary means that cannot be seen in the light. This is clearly the experience card of Zhang San, a bunch of extrajudicial lunatics. Lu Chuang couldn't bear to watch half of it. He just wanted to make some money and get himself a legal status, but he didn't intend to become a mercenary. Especially those commissions involving gangsters. He, an ordinary person without identity, ran to fight against these gangsters with gangster backgrounds. Didn't he provoke enemies for no reason? The weasel seemed to see what Lu Chuang was thinking, and joked, "Why, are you scared?" Lu Chuang said calmly, "I've never been able to do those sneaky things. As for those commissions from gangsters, they didn't come to provoke me. Why should I provoke others?" At this moment, a familiar panel popped up suddenly. Title triggers. Close black lens bracket. Wanted order can be completed. Unlock condition. Kill 15 sinful villains, 0/15. Open black lens bracket. Awarded title. Super high school level sharpshooter. Close black lens bracket. New unlockable missions. The sudden prompt immediately attracted Lu Chuang's attention. After 2 months, he actually triggered the title unlocking task again. Kill 15 wicked people who have committed a lot of crimes? Lu Chuang read the unlocking conditions and thought about it. At the moment the weasel was about to put away the black cards, muttering, "You are smart. The rewards for entrusting these black cards are not so easy to get. If you offend those gangsters, they will definitely rush towards you like a pack of mad dogs gnaw you clean." Snapped. Lu Chuang pressed down on the black card. All except the commission from these gangsters. Weasel looked confused. Why did he suddenly change his mind when he looked like he didn't want to cause trouble just a few seconds ago? Wait. Didn't you say you didn't want to provoke them? Lu Chuang looked at the weasel righteously and solemnly. It doesn't matter if it's money or not, the main thing is to fight crime. I've always disliked this kind of gangsters doing stealthy things. Weasel. Before saying this, can you check out the coke in your hand first?